Posted by u/chess_kings. Ex-homeless redditors, what was the scariest thing that you ever saw on the streets? NSFW. Not that scary, but one time I was on a park bench just killing time. This homeless dude that everyone called Red was at another bench. He came up to mine, and asked if I would watch his shit while he slept for a bit, and I said yes. So he laid down next to me, and after a while he sat up for a cigarette. About 3 drags in, he starts coughing and his face turned all purple fast. Never realized how fast people turn purple from lack of oxygen. He fell over on his side, and I jumped up and gave him a little smack on the back a few times, and I kept yelling at him to get up. I was hesitant to call an ambulance cause of hospital bills that he obviously wouldn't be able to pay, but right as I took my phone out to call, he had been unconscious for like 30 seconds at this point. He starts gasping and gets up. I asked him if he was okay, and all he says is fucking COPD and then takes a drag of the cigarette that he never even dropped the whole time that happened. Blows my mind he didn't drop it. Lamau. Kids beating the shit out of a homeless man. Started with them spitting on him. He gets up and runs after them, then a couple of them hit him from behind with some IKEA looking wood, you know, the one that snaps easy. He gets mad and they run off. He comes back to the bench and falls asleep again. 10 minutes later they're back and they just start beating the fucking shit out of him. I had to jump in and stop them. Not what I saw, what I heard, if that counts. For a while I slept in an empty warehouse. I'm in the UK, so it was a huge Victorian building with about 6 floors. I slept on the 3rd or 4th floor, out of the way of casual intruders. Drunks and prostitutes used that space, and one night I heard a load of shouting and a female screaming from the ground floor. Now I was 16, a junkie and about 120 pounds, so I wasn't in any position to do much, but I crept down the steps to see what was happening. By the time I got there, the place was empty and the noise had stopped, so I went back upstairs. I found out the next day they found a body in the wasteland outside. Turns out the woman was a prostitute. They assumed her client stabbed her after a struggle and she'd made a run for it before he caught her and finished the job. Always wonder if I'd been able to help, but I'd have probably got stabbed too. Skeptical. Lots of stabbings and rapes. I was stalked by a gang one night on my way home from work. I still have no idea how I wasn't raped or mugged. Once I woke up suddenly to a not homeless man holding a huge knife staring at me inside the abandoned building's basement I was sleeping in. Once he noticed I was awake, he asked if I was Russian. I said no and he said he was looking for a different girl, gave me $20 and left. Edit. If you can read this and immediately think yes, it's the best idea to send this woman disgustingly perverse messages and ask for nudes. I hope your dicks stay flaccid for eternity. The scariest thing I saw was a man named Tony T. Apparently he had been a cokehead for years but had to keep a job to support his habit. He had received a huge settlement, over $500,000. At which point he decided that he never had to work again. He lived on the streets and smoked cocaine all day. The best way to describe him is Tuco from Breaking Bad. He was generous with his drugs so people would naturally want to be around him. But he was unpredictable and dangerous. I have tons of stories about him being crazy aggressive, but the last time I saw him he beat a man with a pipe for dropping a tiny crack rock in the dirt. We are talking like $20 worth of dope and he probably either killed the guy or fucked him up for life. I tried to stop him and he threatened to turn on me. I walked out, went to a phone and called my sister to come get me. She helped me get my shit together and I never went back. That was 30 years ago. I had been homeless for a couple weeks now and had made friends with this couple. They seemed pretty chill but had a bit of a drinking problem. Anyway, one night I was sleeping, could hear some commotion going on, couldn't make out who it was or what was going on, until my buddy comes and sits on my sleeping bag, blood pumping out of his neck, like full on. Every time his heart beat it would splurt out, not under huge pressure but it was pretty bad. I asked him what happened and he said he think his missus had cut his throat with a Stanley blade. He was so drunk he was not aware of how bad his injury was, and insisted I did not call an ambulance. So I called the police. They called the ambulance. I see the dude a couple days later, still homeless, scar on his neck. He's ever so grateful the nurse had told him how lucky he was literally a couple millimeters away from dying that night. Edit. I'm no longer homeless. This all happened about 6 years ago now. I no longer speak to him. This is another long story. She was arrested but not charged. Last year she committed suicide, so she's no longer with us. In my years being a homeless junkie and then cleaning up kinda and working at a homeless shelter / on the street, I saw a dude try to murder his girlfriend with a machete. Like full on swing and barely miss, and my heart was fucking pounding like I was sure I was about to witness a murder. I also saw countless odds and shit, saw a girl beaten to shit who had just been raped asking for help. Saw a dude get stabbed. Saw a big huge dude have a heart attack and die and the paramedics frantically trying to give him chest compressions and shit and he was just flopping around. Saw a lot of shit honestly, but those were the ones that come to mind as scaring the shit out of me the most. I have a million stories from those years and half sound fake cause they are so ridiculous. After a meal at a local shelter one night I fell asleep in a park. I hated being around there at night because some of the other homeless would rob you. One guy got knifed a week earlier and I needed to GTFO. So I started to make my way out of the area taking alleyways as not to attract the drunks who would throw shit at, beat up and generally harass the destitute. I heard a commotion and decided to investigate and saw this crazy animal of a man, naked from the waist down, on top of someone, I assume a woman, thrusting on top of her. Every couple of seconds he would stop to throw a punch. The woman was unconscious, completely limp and very bloody. I yelled out to him and he turned to look at me. I have seen a lot of bad things in my life but the look in his eyes was beyond animalistic. He was filthy but in the little light from the street lamps his eyes glowed with rage and insanity. Scared the shit out of me. So afraid that I took off. Ran to nearest payphone, 1993, and dialed 911. I did not go back. I have felt like such a coward and have no idea what happened to either one. I truly hope she's okay and he is dead. Oh God. I was homeless in Seattle for many years. I've seen some horrible things ranging from bum fights that ended in one of them dead, to people next to the downtown Macy's stepping over an overdosed dead body that they thought was just someone sleeping. But the worst thing was probably seeing this methed out drug dare guy who, at the time, had a bad reputation already on the hill, threw a 15-year-old homeless teen girl over an overpass bridge onto the freeway. She was killed. Edit. Wow, everyone. Thanks for all the recognition, questions, interest, and kind words. Seriously didn't realize my experiences would gain that much attention. There are some far worse memories here, and I just wanted to continue to remind everyone that these things happen in every large homeless population. Help the homeless, don't judge and bash them. There's a lot of amazing things you can do for the homeless in your city, including organizing homeless feeds, or giving out essential bags filled with dry socks/underwear, hand sanitizer, toothbrush/toothpaste, feminine hygiene products, a granola bar/trail mix/nut/high-calorie or protein snacks, bottled water, face/body wipes, etc. If you can, donate some sleeping bags or jackets to shelters or even a homeless person themselves. And don't film yourself for clout. Filming yourself giving homeless people things they so desperately need is cringe to me. Do it out of the kindness of your heart, not for likes and upvotes. I was staying in a homeless shelter that had a men's side and a woman's side. Most of the men were convicted sex offenders. In the 8 months I spent in that hell on earth, I was friends with 3 women who were raped by some of these men. The truly scary thing? The women were actively discouraged from telling anyone what had happened, especially the police. If they filed a report with the police, they were permanently barred from the shelter. That place, one of the most celebrated in my state, regularly has the mayor and governor drop by, is the most evil place on earth. ETA, the Pine Street Inn, Boston, Massachusetts. It just didn't occur to me to say where, cause I never expected many people to see this. Also ETA, the rapes didn't take place inside the shelters. The men stayed in one building, the women in another. The rapes took place outside, after dark, in areas that didn't have good CCTV coverage. And tie for my first awards. I was working in a mountain town and couldn't afford rent, even with 2 jobs. One night I was wasted after work, me and a work friend were always there by ourselves closing so the bar was free game. Left work at 2 a.m. walked the hour and a half back to my tent outside of town. While being stalked by a mountain lion, I assume I looked injured and could be an easy meal. It was terrifying. I had a digital camera with me so I just kept pointing it in the area of the ridge where I could hear it walking and flashed repeatedly. Made it home safe. Another night after closing, different campsite. I must have smelled like a huge gyro after working a double at Pita's in Paradise. Got into my sleeping bag in my tent. I was just about to doze off when I heard big crunches of a black bear sniffing me out. I was frozen with terror. The bear put his butt against the nylon inches above my head. Hot steam on my face. I had pulled the sleeping bag up to my cheeks petrified when I slapped the bear's nose above my forehead. It was an involuntary reaction and I felt stupid, but I spooked the bear and it took off. I got an apartment with some friends soon after. I've never been homeless, but I work in a homelessness service. One of my colleagues had been homeless and was telling me about it. He said he had a sleeping bag and a small tent in the woods that he used to sleep in. I said I would be too shit scared to do that. He then tells me when sleeping in a city center he was pissed on multiple times and was set fire to once, and he would rather take the very slim chance of bumping into a killer or looking for people in a forest at night. People are fucking dicks. I'm a woman in my early 20s. Not my brightest decision, but I slept in my car for several weeks, when I was completely out of money. Every night I parked in a small cul-de-sac. As far as I knew, the area was office only, so I didn't take anybody's parking lot, and in the morning I left. I worked a lot, so usually I slept like a log. One night though I woke up, feeling anxious for some reason. I looked up and saw a softly illuminated window right above me. Nice, warm light as if from a grandma bedside lamp. I freaked out a bit and fumbled for my keys. I better sit the rest of the night out at McDonald's or something. Then I noticed a silhouette not far away. A man was standing still and watching me. He didn't knock on my window glass, didn't try to talk or anything. He was just watching. I booked it out of that cul-de-sac real quick. You know, the thing that freaks me out the most is not even the fact that he could assault or rob me then, but the realization that he may have watched me every other night, but I was too tired to notice that earlier. One night I got kidnapped. This guy wouldn't let me leave his house. He had picked me up for a trick, and once we got to his house he just wanted to hold me. Once I tried to leave he tied me down and had his way with me. No matter what I did I couldn't get away. Finally hours later he passed out and I ran away. I was so scared. It took 2 hours for me to get back where my boyfriend was. When I got back and told him what happened, he took his broken crack pipe and cut me with it. Because I didn't bring any money back. I was covered in blood, and when a pedestrian saw they called the police. But the worst part was when the police came and I told them what happened and I gave them the address of the individual who raped me. They told me just because he didn't pay doesn't mean it's rape. That wasn't the first time I had issues with the police not caring about the welfare of the homeless. I had my nose broken by another girl and I passed out for a few hours. Somebody called the police. When they got there they said don't bother, she's just a prostitute and not worth the time. I was once homeless for 4 to 5 days a few years back when I got lost in another city in Turkey where my family lost me. I had to go to homeless shelter since I didn't have my bag, had my phone, money, card, keys, ID, important stuff, and it was when the Turkish coup happened. I saw people being beaten and sometimes to death, gunfire, bombs, gas. I didn't have anyone to help since the police were busy, everyone was busy. The scariest moment was when a military officer threw a few Molotov cocktails at the crowd. My cousins found me near the mosque they visited at midnight. I was sleeping behind a closed shop on a bench. I am fine and doing well, thank God.